Of all the great players we've had and some of the most fabulous players the league has ever known, there was always a lingering doubt about, is he big enough? Can he withstand the tough play in the NHL? When Orr was about to break in, there were no such questions.
You might think you know who the greatest hockey player of all time is, but what if the greatest player ever told you there was someone he's the best ever? That is exactly what happened when the legendary Bobby Orr, a man who changed hockey forever, revealed his personal list of the 6 players he admired the most. This is more than a list. It is a definitive historical statement from a giant of the sport. These are the 6 players who set the gold standard of excellence in the eyes of the man who defined modern hockey. To truly understand why these 6 players mean so much to Bobby Orr, you first have to remember his own greatness. Orr did things no one thought a defenseman could do. He revolutionized the position, making blue liners a major part of the offense with his incredible skating speed and scoring talent. His dominance was so complete that he won an NHL record 8 consecutive Norris trophies, was the only defenseman to win the Art Ross Trophy as the league's scoring leader, and earned 3 consecutive Hart trophies. He was so brilliant that he was inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame at the unprecedented age of 31. Orr's high standard means that when he picks his favorites, he is defining true greatness, which for him includes skill, competitive intensity, and most critically, character. Orr believes that success requires a foundational triad of skill, effort, and passion, and he maintains that talent means little in the absence of hard work. The players on this list embody that holistic definition of excellence. The first player on Orr's list, and arguably the one he respects most, is the legendary Gordie Howe. When Orr talks about Howe, he does not hold back, stating that no one was better. In Orr's mind, Howe is the best to ever play the game. That is the highest praise possible from one great to another. Howe was an icon of his era, known ubiquitously as Mr. Hockey. He set the standard for longevity and comprehensive skill. He played an astonishing 26 seasons in the NHL and 6 in the WHA, spanning 6 decades. Howe is widely considered the most complete player ever to play the game. At the time of his retirement, his totals of 801 goals, 1,049 assists, and 1,150 points were all NHL records, eventually surpassed only by Wayne Gretzky. Howe's dominance was sustained over 2 decades. He led the NHL in scoring 6 times and goal scoring 4 times. Remarkably, he ranked among the top 10 NHL scorers for 21 consecutive years. His legacy is so ingrained that the term Gordie Howe hat trick, a goal, an assist, and a fight in a single game, remains a colloquial measure of a player's willingness to combine elite skill with robust toughness. Orr valued his exemplary humility and conduct. Orr stated definitively, there will never be another Gordie Howe, specifically noting that Howe achieved historical dominance while staying profoundly humble and nice. This focus on humility despite unrivaled dominance is the ultimate benchmark of professionalism for Orr. What made Howe truly special was not just his ability to score goals or rack up assists, but his complete dedication to every aspect of the game. He could fight when necessary, protect his teammates, and still put up numbers that defied belief. His physicality was legendary, and opponents knew that challenging Howe meant they were in for a long night. Yet despite all this power and dominance, he remained one of the kindest and most approachable figures in the sport. Teammates loved playing with him, and even rivals respected him deeply. Howe represented everything that was good about hockey, a player who gave everything on the ice but never let success change who he was as a person. Now that you have heard Orr's highest praise, it's only natural to wonder if you agree. Who do you think is the best to ever play the game? Was it Howe, Orr, or maybe someone else entirely? We'd love to know your passionate takes on these icons. Please drop a comment below and hit that subscribe button so you do not miss our next deep dive into the world of sports legends. We love hearing your opinions. Next up is the Montreal Canadiens giant, Jean Béliveau. This is a man who epitomized leadership and institutional loyalty, known for his regal bearing on and off the ice. Béliveau was a pillar of success, winning an incredible 10 Stanley Cups as a player. His influence continued beyond his playing career. He won 17 total Stanley Cups as both a player and an executive with the Canadiens. In a pivotal moment in hockey history, Béliveau demonstrated his extraordinary integrity. In 1973, when the rival World Hockey Association was aggressively recruiting star talent by offering massive contracts, Béliveau was approached by the Quebec Nordiques with an estimated $1 million offer. Béliveau ultimately chose to pass on the lucrative opportunity, upholding his loyalty to the Canadiens organization and preserving his reputation for character and stability. This high-minded decision to prioritize integrity over immediate financial gain perfectly embodies the principles of passion and character that Orr seeks in a revered player. The mutual admiration between the two players is clear, as Béliveau explicitly credited Orr with having the greatest impact of any player in his lifetime and single-handedly changing the style of the game. Orr valued his unmatched loyalty and ambassadorship. Béliveau set the standard for captaincy and comportment in the sport. His ability to lead by example, both through his play and his conduct, made him an irreplaceable figure in Montreal. Fans adored him not just for his talent, but for the grace and dignity he brought to every situation. Béliveau was the kind of captain who inspired his his teammates through quiet confidence rather than loud speeches. He showed them what it meant to be a professional, to carry yourself with class, and to represent your organization with pride. His decision to stay with the Canadiens when he could have chased money elsewhere speaks volumes about his character and his understanding of what truly mattered in life. The third name on Orr's list is a player whose technique changed how the game was played. Bobby Hull, known as the Golden Jet. Hull was an electrifying left wing. He was recognized for having one of the fastest and hardest shots in hockey history, combining speed with explosive scoring talent. He was a perennial leader in offense, winning the Art Ross Trophy 3 times and the Hart Trophy once. Hull was the first player in NHL history to break the 50-goal barrier multiple times. Hull's influence was felt dramatically in the business of hockey. In June 1972, he stunned the establishment by signing a monumental 10-year contract worth an estimated $3 million with the Winnipeg Jets. This gave the WHA instant credibility and initiated the economic revolution in player salaries. Although Béliveau chose loyalty and tradition, the inclusion of Hull on Orr's list demonstrates an appreciation for the player who had the power and willingness to disrupt the economic landscape. Hull significantly improved the compensation and bargaining power for all players who followed. Orr, who saw the game evolve and who faced his own financial struggles later, respects both forms of principled action. Hull's disruption and Béliveau's integrity that ultimately benefited the professional athlete. Hull's aggressive scoring attack pushed the limits of the power forward position. His shot was so powerful that goalies feared facing him, and his speed made him nearly impossible to catch on a breakaway. Hull brought an excitement to the game that few players could match. When he had the puck, fans stood up because they knew something spectacular might happen at any moment. Next on the list is a man known for his fierce competitive will and pioneering spirit. Ted Lindsay, a Detroit Red Wings icon. Lindsay's ferocious, unrelenting play earned him the moniker Terrible Ted. Despite his relatively small physical stature at 5 feet 8 inches and 163 pounds, Lindsay was an aggressive scorer and agitator. He was instrumental in defining the early role of the power forward, and he accumulated nearly 1,800 penalty minutes during his 17-year NHL career. Lindsay was a key component of the storied production line alongside Gordie Howe and Sid Abel, leading the Detroit Red Wings to 4 Stanley Cups in the 1950s. Lindsay's most enduring and sacrificial legacy lies off the ice, believing players deserved better treatment. He courageously spearheaded the organization of the original NHL Players Association in 1957. This act of defiance challenged the league's authority and resulted in his immediate punitive trade to the Chicago Blackhawks. Orr's respect for Lindsay is an acknowledgement of the moral cost of fighting for collective player rights, given Orr's own commitment to the welfare of athletes. The choice of Lindsay validates the profound importance of political courage and self-sacrifice for the greater good. The legacy of his leadership is immortalized, as the NHLPA's Most Outstanding Player Award was renamed the Ted Lindsay Award in 2010. Orr respected his unwavering purpose in union organizing and his fearless and unrelenting style. Lindsay proved that size does not determine heart, and his willingness to stand up for what was right, even when it cost him personally, showed the kind of courage that transcends sports. When you think about Orr's best teammates, the name Phil Esposito immediately comes to mind. Esposito was the dominant offensive force of the early 1970s, setting new benchmarks for scoring volume. The 6'1", 215-pound center won the Art Ross Trophy 5 times and the Hart Memorial Trophy twice, helping the Boston Bruins secure Stanley Cups in 1970 and 1972. Esposito retired as the second leading all-time goal and point scorer in NHL history. Esposito's success was rooted in his uncompromising physical presence and sheer determination. He earned his goals by parking his hulking frame directly in front of the opposing net, fighting through frustrated defenders. This commitment to the hard, uncomfortable work in the most dangerous area of the ice aligns perfectly with Orr's philosophy that results are achieved not through style but through effort and results. As Orr's dominant teammate in Boston, Esposito provided the essential offensive finishing power that converted Orr's revolutionary playmaking from the blue line. The pairing of the greatest goal scorer and the greatest defenseman of their era represents a pinnacle of team synergy. Selecting Esposito is a validation of the necessity of collaboration and shared competitive success. Orr valued him as a hulking net front fighter who revolutionized goal-scoring volume. Esposito was never the most graceful skater or the most naturally gifted player, but he understood that goals were scored in the dirty areas, and he was willing to pay the physical price to be there game after game. He absorbed slashes, cross-checks, and every kind of punishment defenders could deliver, yet he never backed down. His toughness was not about fighting. It was about standing in that crease and refusing to be moved. The final name on Bobby Orr's list is perhaps the most nuanced testament to the value Orr places on relentless, high-level competition. Brad Park. Park represents the ultimate elite peer, whose career brilliance was unfortunately obscured by the sheer magnitude of Orr's historic dominance. In nearly any other era, Park would have been universally acclaimed as the premier defenseman of his generation. Park was a Hall of Fame defender, widely regarded by his peers and historians as the best player at his position, who was not named Bobby Orr. He utilized his size and skating speed to play aggressively in his own zone. While possessing the necessary offensive instincts to join the rush, he was lauded for his deceptive stick handling and pinpoint passing. The true measure of his consistency lies in his accolades. He was named to the NHL All-Star Team 7 times and was the runner-up for the Norris Trophy 6 times during Orr's dynasty. This sustained period of elite performance confirms a career spent operating at the highest level. Orr affirms that the template he pioneered, the rushing, playmaking blue liner, is the ultimate standard. Even in a rival, Park's skill set was the closest reflection of Orr's own revolutionary game. This choice is a powerful endorsement of competitive equality, as Park was the most consistent and formidable challenge to Orr's decade of defensive dominance. Orr's decision to name Park as a favorite elevates Park's historical standing, validating his achievements beyond the context of perpetual second place. Orr valued his professional persistence and viewed him as the ultimate elite peer. Imagine being one of the best defensemen in the world, but constantly being compared to someone who was rewriting the record books. Park never complained, never made excuses. He just kept playing at an incredibly high level year after year, pushing Orr to maintain his greatness. Park's inclusion on this list shows that Orr recognized and respected that challenge, and it demonstrates the kind of sportsmanship and mutual respect that defined that era of hockey. Orr's list is a profound look into the mind of a true great, a composite portrait of his ideal hockey player. It is not just a collection of scores, but a deliberate pantheon synthesizing the criteria Orr deems essential for professional greatness. The group is united by a foundational commitment to integrity and an uncompromising will to win. They all embody the belief that sheer talent must be complemented by relentless effort and profound passion. The list skillfully connects the established, foundational excellence of the pre-expansion era with the explosive, modernizing period of the 1970s. Every player on the list fundamentally altered either the competitive dynamics or the business structure of the sport. Orr's list clarifies that while statistical achievement is necessary, it is the underlying ethical framework, the integrity of Béliveau, the advocacy of Lindsay, and the humility of Howe that ultimately earns the deepest reverence from a peer recognized as the sport's greatest innovator. The kind of toughness Orr admired was functional, purpose-driven grit, seamlessly integrated into an elite, high-skill game, such as Esposito's willingness to withstand punishment in front of the net. This composite portrait confirms that even for the most revolutionary player in history, true admiration is rooted in character and the consistent, uncompromising pursuit of all-around excellence. These 6 men represent different aspects of what makes a hockey player truly great, from Howe's complete dominance to Béliveau's loyalty, from Hull's willingness to change the business landscape to Lindsay's courage in fighting for player rights, from Esposito's relentless net front presence to Park's sustained excellence in the shadow of greatness. Each of them brought something unique and irreplaceable to the game, and each of them earned Bobby Orr's respect, not just for what they accomplished on the ice, but for who they were as people and professionals. When you look at these 6 names together, you see a blueprint for what hockey excellence should look like. You see players who understood that their responsibility extended beyond their individual performance. They knew they were part of something bigger, a sport with history and tradition that demanded respect. They played in an era when the game was rougher, the travel was harder, and the financial rewards were far less certain. Yet they showed up night after night, giving everything they had. These players built the foundation that modern hockey stands on. They established standards of play and conduct that future generations would aspire to reach. Orr's choices reflect his deep understanding that hockey is not just about individual brilliance, it is about teamwork, sacrifice, and an unwavering commitment to excellence in every shift, every game, every season. The men on this list understood that wearing an NHL jersey was a privilege, not a right, and they treated it accordingly. They respected their opponents, honored their teammates, and never took for granted the opportunity they had been given to play the game they loved at the highest level. What makes Orr's selections even more meaningful is that he played against most of these men. He faced them in the heat of playoff battles, he competed with them for trophies and championships, and he saw firsthand the dedication and skill they brought every single night. Orr did not choose these players based on nostalgia or friendship alone. He chose them because they forced him to be better. They pushed the boundaries of what was possible, and they showed him that true greatness requires more than just talent. When a player of Orr's caliber looks back at his career and identifies these 6 names, it carries immense weight. It tells us that these were the players who defined an era, who set the standard, and who left an indelible mark on the sport. This is the legacy that Bobby Orr honors, a legacy that reminds us that greatness in sports is about so much more than statistics and trophies. It is about the values you uphold, the example you set, and the way you lift up those around you. Thank you for watching and joining us as we explored the minds of the hockey pantheon. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments below.